Ever wondered if things can just be born evil? In this enlightened age of ours, concepts like good and evil are painted as outmoded, archaic even. According to modern thought, people, animals too obviously, are simply the products of their environment, no more responsible for their actions than a twig in a stream. But I know better. Some things are just born bad. About 10 years ago, we had a German Shepherd named Duchess that had a litter of puppies. 7 in all. 6 looked like any other shepherd you've seen before. The 7th one was snowy white. Not a true albino, just white furred, with a black nose and blue eyes. There was never any doubt about which one we were going to keep out of that litter. We named her Princess. Before the end of the 6 months, any plan we had to give away or sell the others became a moot point, as all the others were dead. We just found them at the rate of about 1 a month. Not mangled or anything, just dead, as if they died in their sleep. At first, we thought it might have been their mother. It being her first litter and all, was accidentally crushing them or smothering them. Later, we had no doubt as to what had killed them. Within a year, she came to dominate her mother. Her father, tough old alpha that he was, and to a degree, us too. Her parents shied away from her. When we put out their food, she eat to her heart's content, unchallenged by the other two. Once, I tried to shoo her away and let the other two eat. She snarled at me, baring those perfect white fangs, loosening a growl so deep that I felt it in my gut more than hearing it. After that, I left her alone too. I often wonder if parents of serial killers know that they have a monster in the making. I mean, sure, some of them are to blame for how the kids turned out, the products of messed up households with systematic abuse of all flavors. But then there are those ones that seem to be true aberrations. Those are the families I'm curious about. Do they smile and laugh and pretend that everything is fine? I know that we sure did. We downplayed the weirdness around Princess, trying to rationalize her behavior, the bizarre things she do, like killing rabbits and leaving them hung up in the bushes behind our house. Some dogs do that to show that they love you. Cats too, my father would say. To them, it's just bringing you food. To me, it looked like she was taunting us, just like the puppies years earlier. Not one of those rabbits ever had a mark on it. Princess, like her mom and dad, were well looked after and never hurt for a meal, so it wasn't as she was hunting for food. Her and numerous kills were always untouched. No, the only thing I ever saw her eat was a kitten. We had some feral cats in the woods around our house, and one mama cat had a litter in our tool shed. Feral is really stretching it. Most of them were tame enough to be petted, this mama cat being amongst them. I returned home from school one day and head around the back to look in on them. The door to the shed was open, and inside I found Princess. Her jaws pink from her feast as she devoured the last kitten. Her beautiful blue eyes never left mine. The mama we found displayed on what I came to think of as the rabbit bush. The tipping point came that same year. We found her sire dead. He was the best dog we ever had, that we will ever have. We woke one Saturday morning to find him in the backyard lying dead without a mark, like so many rabbits before him. I can count the number of times I ever saw my father cry on one hand. That was one of them. That was also when we found out how she killed so cleanly. She strangled her prey like a jaguar. The fur at her father's neck was still wet with her saliva. We spent that morning burying that good old faithful dog. Then he sent me and my mother away on some pretense. No words were spoken, but there was no doubt about what he intended to do. I'm sure that some of you hearing this that would find the notion of putting a animal down to be abominable. But what other options did he had, really? Take her to a shelter? Give her to some other family? Who could do that and go to sleep with a clear conscience? Turns out we weren't getting any sleep that night, regardless of our decision. We spent that afternoon at my uncle's house. Once I came inside from playing to get a glass of water, I overheard my mother talking to my uncle that sometimes she wonders if that dog was possessed or something. I sometimes wonder the same thing. Later that afternoon, not long before sunset, we got a call from Dad. Apparently, the deed was done. By the time we arrived home, he was already washed up and changed clothes. But there was very little he could do to hide his wounds. Even less to hide that haunted look in his eyes. Both his arms and one leg was bandaged. That was bad enough. But what stuck with me all these years later was how terrified he looked. It wasn't until I actually been through combat in the army that I recognized that expression. It is how men look after they stare death straight in the face. My father never talked about it, but he drafted a friend from up the street to come help. And it was from him that I got this part of the story. Princess was many things. Bloodthirsty, evil chief amongst them. But stupid wasn't among them. In that, if nothing else, she took after her father, her dad, Rocky. He was famous for letting himself into the house if it was storming out. He figured out how to paw open the sliding glass door out to the patio. What was really astounding is that he also had the presence of mind to close it behind him. Not being stupid, she knew something was up and made herself scarce, disappearing into the woods. Dad, not wanting to push this off and being in full-on revenge mode, called his friend from down the road and filled him in. So off on the hunt the two of them went. In his own words, she was waiting for us. If it sounds absurd to say that Princess laid an ambush, then I failed at conveying just how wrong everything about her was. She led them on a chase through the woods, barking whenever it seems like the stupid humans lost her again. Then she laid up underneath an overhang on top of the creek bank, just where the path crossed it, and waited. She was on my father the instant he stepped into the creek, grabbing his leg and making him fall headfirst into the water. Then she went straight for his throat. My father already lost his rifle at this point and grabbed her with both his hands, trying to fight her off, wrestling with 115 pounds of teeth, claws, and muscle in a foot and a half of water. Princess savaging his arms all the while. At that point, he managed to work his legs up between him and the dog and kicked her away from him, providing his friend with a clear shot, which he took, catching Princess straight through the chest. He put a second round through her head, point blank. He then helped my father back home and to the emergency room, telling him he'll go back to see after Princess once they got home. She can rot where she is, was all my father had to say on that subject. After they got back from the hospital, our neighbor went back on his ATV to pick up Princess for burial. He was a dog lover like us, and it just didn't seem right to him to leave her. If he spent as much time tiptoeing around as we had, he would have felt different. She was just not there, he said. No blood trail, nothing. He also said that he been there poking around for a few minutes. He noticed something else strange. No birds. It was dead quiet, the way the woods sometimes get right before a bad storm blows in. Wisely, he got right the hell out of there. There was a storm coming, all right. That night, Duchess came pawing at the back door, wanting to be let in. Something she never once done in all the times she's been with us. And I had a dream. In it, I was playing football in the backyard with some buddies and ran over to a bad throw had landed near Rocky's grave. As I reached for it, Princess's head shot up out of the grave to grab my hand. I woke up with the jolt and was promptly scared out of roughly 10 years of life by the silhouette of a German Shepherd in the hallway. It was Duchess, of course. She was sitting in the hallway, whining and wagging her tail nervously, looking back towards the front of the house. I walked over to her and placed my hand on top of her big doggy head and said, "What is it, girl?" That is when I heard the distinctive sound of claws on glass. Something was pawing at the patio door. Truly terrified, I grabbed Duchess by the collar and I dragged her along with me to my parents' bedroom, shutting the door behind me. I was 14. I was terrified. But in that terror, retreating to my parents' room wasn't just for the security of Mommy and Daddy. That's where the guns were. I woke them up and I told them what I heard. "Oh, sweet Jesus," my mom said. Dad got up and locked the bedroom door and said, "You all lock yourselves in the bathroom." I heard the patio door slide open. If any of us had any doubts of what just came inside the house, Duchess sure didn't. The only thing she ever feared in this world was her own pup. A deep, rumbling growl vibrated the floor beneath our feet, and Duchess Bladder let go as if on cue. Mine wasn't far from doing the same. What followed was 6 hours exercised in pure terror, punctuated by snarling attacks on the bedroom door, crashes through the rest of the house as Princess found more things to break, whispered prayers from my mom, and a litany of curses from my father as another of his attempts to foray out of the bedroom was thwarted. We were without a phone. The one on my parents' nightstands was dead. We later found out that the phone line had been ripped out of the main box. My mom suggested that we try to make it out to the car, and above and beyond anything else, it was my father's response to that idea that really scared me the most. Out of the three of us, he was supposed to be the more rational thinker. But what we got instead was, honey, I think that's what it wants us to do. As the world through the windows turned from black to gray, a quiet fell over the house. Mom and I watched through the windows, craning our heads in an attempt to get an eye on the patio door. But tried as we may, the best we could manage was a view of most of the patio. More than enough concealment for a dog to sneak in and out. Even a big one like Princess. After an hour of silence, my dad gently opened the bedroom door. I remember thinking, what a useless gesture any attempt at being stealthy was. Dog senses are much more acute than ours, that he might as well had fired a 21 gun salute. My dad stopped in the hallway and shooed me back into the bedroom. Don't come out until I say so, okay? Carefully, he made his way through the house to the patio door. We heard him shut it before he shouted back to us to stay in the bedroom until he told us to come out. Through the door, I could hear him moving around, and what seemed to be him dumping something into a garbage bag. After about 30 minutes, he gave us the all clear. What greeted us was a disaster. Ripped up cushions and pillows, destroyed furniture, shredded papers and books all over the floor. But the most terrible was the smear of gore all over everything. My mom wondered out loud at what did she dragged into the house. Grim-faced, my father didn't answer. He simply turned and headed to the back to bury Rocky for a second time. We cleaned up as best we could while Dad drove down to our neighbor's house to make all the appropriate calls. After all these years, I still wonder what portion of homeowner insurance covers attacked by undead demon ghost dog. Unspoken, we all wondered what the night would bring. As it turned out, we never got a repeat. But Duchess never left the house again. Time rolls on. Occasionally, we find a present on the rabbit bush. Just a friendly reminder. Another token of princesses. A binding love. About 2 years in college, my dad called to tell me that our neighbor had passed. Heart attack in his sleep, the coroner said. But we were both thinking, was not a mark. There are plenty of nights I wondered what was the last thing to pass before that old bachelor's eyes. I can guarantee you that it stared right back. I seen firsthand how it feeds. Not long after that, my folks put the house up for sale. I sort of acted as the go-between on the deal. About a week after the new owners moved in, I received a call from the man at the house. He wanted to know if we left any pets behind when we moved. Already fearing the answer, I asked him why he asked. Oh, me and the kids been seeing this white shepherd in the woods. Pretty. Pretty.